E-file safety and basics, as well as tips for filing with your non-dominant hand by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be going over some basic tips for e-file safety. And the first tip that I want to share with you that isn't going to be discussed later in the video is that you really get what you pay for. So if you're looking to buy a new e-file that you're planning on using for the next several years and is going to be a big part of your life and you're a nail professional, please don't buy one off of Amazon that's $50 because it's cheap and it's got decent reviews on Amazon, because you're just not going to get a good quality piece of equipment. I would go with Atwood Industries or Koopa or Chiarosky or Young Nails, or a company that people know. For one thing, their customer service is going to be fantastic because they're trying to maintain that reputation. And so if you do have an issue with it, there's somebody there to help you. And two, you really, like I said, you get what you pay for. So you have to consider torque is actually more important than speed with an e-file, and the cheap ones off of Amazon just don't have that power. And so then the other thing is you get what you pay for with an e-file, but you also get what you pay for with bits. And there's a lot to think about when you buy bits, but same thing, while you can get a bunch of them off of Amazon that are pretty inexpensive for a huge set, I wouldn't recommend it. I would still recommend going with Atwood Industries or Koopa, or even Tony, designed by Tony Lee, Tony Nails, his bits. I have a couple of those and I am absolutely in love. So I'll go over more of the bit information later in the video, but same thing, just kind of keep your eye out for what you're purchasing. So that's my first tip, but otherwise if you're new to e-files, please don't be afraid of them. There's a lot to learn with them, but they can definitely be a handy tool. So I hope this video helps you, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to put a comment in the comment section below, and I will see you soon. Bye!
So these are my favorite 4 bits and my most used bits when I'm actually working on a hand. So that first one I showed you is my remove all bit. This second one is my finishing bit. That one is my clean up the cuticle area after I applied acrylic bit. And then the last one I'm going to show you, that little one there, is my cuticle remover, my cuticle bit. And so those are my 4 favorite bits, and I'll put links for all of them in the description box below. That little ceramic one is actually off of Amazon, so sometimes I break my own rules. So this first bit is from Koopa, and this is an extra coarse bullet shaped or football shaped bit. And like I said, that is my remove all bit, and it goes over, and I'm going to show you on the side view the kind of angles you want to use on it. So because of the shape of it, it contours very nicely to an enhancement shape. So as you can see, use the tip at the cuticle area, the belly of the bit at the belly of the nail, and the bottom of the bit at the tip of the nail. So that is how you want to remember it. You kind of rotate your hand as you go down the nail, or you kind of tilt your hand differently. And it eventually becomes a very natural movement, and as you can see, you can kind of watch the top view of it. So I'm just going to go over and remove 99% of the product on my nails right now. So I'm going to start by removing that gel polish that's on there, and then after I've got that gel polish, I'm just going to kind of go through and very gently go over the entire thing. One very important thing to remember when you're removing a lot of product like I'm going to be removing here is that if you feel like you're not removing product fast enough, do not use more pressure. The last thing you want to do when you're using an e-file is press hard on the nail. You want the e-file to glide over the nail, really smooth, really elegant movements. And if you use too much pressure, you're going to end up getting the e-file stuck. So it's going to get kind of a little groove kicked up, and then instead of going across the surface of the nail, it's going to go down, and you're going to really gouge your nail bed or your client's nail bed or whoever. So that is the last thing you want to do, is use more pressure. So when you have that moment of, oh man, my bit isn't removing things fast enough, don't use more pressure, use more speed. And that speed is going to be what helps you remove product faster. So it's the same thing if you're going, oh my goodness, this thing is removing product way too fast, what am I going to do? Turn your speed down a little and it'll remove less product at a time. So that is one of the most important things I can possibly tell you. And the other thing is to never tip the bit any farther than what I showed you in that first little clip where I showed you the angles. Never use the point of your bit to really dig something out. I've seen techs that are trying to remove lifting go and just try to pick it out with their e-file, and that is not the route you want to take with this. You want to file next to the lifting and remove the product so that there's nothing left for the lifting to hold on to, and it will fall off and you'll get this nice smooth gradient. So here's what it looks like after I've removed the majority of the product that I'm going to. Like I said, I'm removing about 90%. I still want a little bit of an acrylic overlay over my nail at this particular point. So it's just a little bit, very thin layer left. So now the next little tip I'm going to be sharing with you guys is to really keep track of how you're filing product off on one hand versus the other, because when you go to reverse it, you need to remember. So you kind of learn from yourself. So now that finished file bit that I showed you is a fine barrel bit, and that one is from Designed by Tony Lee. And that one is my favorite bit for a bunch of different things. It's my favorite bit for doing the finish filing after a new overlay is laid, because it just removes acrylic and leaves the finish like velvet. The other thing, or it removes like bulks and issues and leaves the acrylic really nice, is that it's the best bit I have ever used for doing a free edge. So filing a free edge is undeniably one of the hardest things you can do with an e-file, because it likes to jerk. And so you really have to practice with your angle with your bit. So you don't want it to be perpendicular to the nail. You want it to tip at an angle so it goes actually underneath the nail bed a little bit. And the great thing with a bit like the one I'm using is it has a safety edge on it. So cutting your client is much less of a concern with a bit like this. And if you're a new tech, always use a safety bit. Until you really know what you're doing, don't even think about using a really sharp edged bit, because you're going to regret it. So now that you've seen how I cut in a free edge and you've heard a couple of what I have to say, I'm going to go over and show you essentially the same thing using my left hand to file my right hand. And the reason that is important to know is left hand is what I'm using to file right now, even though you can see that, is because bits are cut to work with a right hand most of the time. Unless they say left hand or right hand or just left hand, assume that they're meant to just be used in the forward position on your e-file. So e-file should have a forward and a reverse. Forward is meant for your right hand, reverse is meant for your left hand. But if you have a favorite bit, like I do in this Koopa bit, and it only works with your right hand, how to use it for your left hand? Don't put it in reverse and try it anyway, because you're going to end up giving yourself quite the ring of fire. Which, if you don't know what that term means, it's basically just hurting your nail bed and leaving a bright red spot where it's very thin and you can see the blood from your nail bed underneath, and that's not what you want to do. So you're going to leave your e-file in the forward position, in the regular position like you would use for your right hand, and use it with your left hand. The awkward part of this is that you're moving the e-file in the opposite direction from what feels natural to your hand. So before you try this on yourself, practice on a hand dolly or on anything, but just practice. Use that e-file, and even before you use it on yourself, just in general, practice on a hand dolly, or like I do, just with some tips and some poster putty. Just kind of get a feel for it and get yourself acquainted with your e-file before trying it on a hand. And before trying it on a client, try it on somebody that you know or yourself that can give you kind of feedback as you go. Oh, it's starting to get hot, or oop, that kind of stung, or you can feel that yourself. But if you don't want to do it on yourself, find somebody that is willing to give you that advice and that information as you file, so you really get accustomed to it. So now that I have the product filed off both my hands, I'm going to go through and I'm going to use my little cuticle bit to clean up my cuticles. Now, your cuticles are just that dead skin that is on your nail plate. So don't try to file into your live skin. Even though this bit won't hurt your live skin, there's no reason for it in this particular situation. So just very gently, this bit is on the lowest speed my e-file goes, and I'm using a Koopa Mani Pro Passport, and just very gently go right along that line and clean up those cuticles. And you'll see the little cuticle dust kind of flying up off the nail, and it'll leave you with a very smooth, very healthy nail bed underneath. And that's what you're going for, but light pressure, very slow speed, and that's all you need. So now that I have a new overlay applied to my nails, so I've got my cuticles cleaned up, any lifting was removed, all of that great stuff, brand new acrylic overlay. My overlays are super thin on myself because, well, yeah, they just are. But I'm going to take that really nice cuticle cleaning bit that's for enhancements, and I'm going to just go very gently around that cuticle area. So when you're going around any spot and you know you're going to be in one area for a more amount of time than normal, I like to just take and file it, take a couple seconds, and then go back to it so that I don't cause any heat spikes. Then I'm going to go back to that other fine bit, and both of these two are from Designed by Tony Lee. That one that's the really narrow bit and this barrel bit are both, and like I said, I'll put links to all of them in the description box below. And I'm going to just very gently go over the entire nail surface and make sure that everything is looking good. Check the nail from all angles. When you're using an e-file, especially in the beginning, use it to get rid of the, the bulk stuff, and then take a hand file and finish file. You're going to get a better finished application. And I always do that for clients, not necessarily always on myself, because I'm a little bit more of a, slacker on myself. But this bit, if you do want to go full e-file, is definitely a usable one, because it does leave a very nice finish. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to help, and I will see you next time. Bye.